2 weeks. I've written that question down though, because I think I'm going to pass that over to Will to answer that, which is going to go through after this next session. So we can give a better answer than
I have. Okay, I think that's everyone back now. Yay, excellent, fantastic. Okay, great. Well, I hope you guys all got to know one another a little bit better and got to see who is very, very good at telling interesting facts and who are the dirty little liars among all of us. Now, let's hand over to our guest today, who is Emily. So Emily is the teacher that went out in 2017 as part of the Teach China graduate program 3 years ago. Wow, I can't believe it's that long ago now. After graduating from UCL and also in the Netherlands, I believe. But what I should do is quickly pass over to Emily to share a bit of her experience, and also answer any questions that you guys might have there.
Hi everyone. Well, as Will just said, I'm Emily. I'm gonna probably just like talk at you for a little bit, and then I'll open up to questions later because I'm not sure how good my Wi-Fi is. It's very nice to meet you all. Hi from China. I have a little PPT to share with you all. I've understood from Will that a lot of you will perhaps be coming to Shenzhen, which is where I started my China experience. So let's see. Share screen. There we go. Okay, great. Okay, give me a second. Sorry, guys. Okay, so this is me, Emily Beckwith. You can add my WeChat as well if any of you are on WeChat yet, and then you can ask me questions, or you're very free to send me emails as well. I am from the UK. Originally, I was born in the UK, and I actually moved to Holland with my parents when I was young. So I did part of my education in the Netherlands, and then I moved back to London to study at UCL. I did my master's there in museums and galleries and education. And then I worked in London for a year, and I kind of found it quite hard to work as a museum educator and make ends meet. And I was very passionate about traveling, and I sort of met someone randomly who had done a year with Opportunity China in Beijing. Actually, she'd been to Beijing. So she put me in touch with Will, and very, very quickly I found myself on a plane to China. And I started my China experience in Shenzhen, working for Sea Dragon Education, which some of you might be familiar with. Some of you might be going there, I'm not sure. But I had a good time with them. What happens with SDE is you get recruited as part of a larger team, and then you get sent out to individual schools because you'll be working in a public school. I'm not sure how much you guys know, so I'll just talk about my experience. I knew very little when I went out there. So public schools are run by the government. You're with mainly Chinese staff. You'll often be the only, the only foreign teacher, or there might be 2 or 3 of you, depending on how big the school is. And you'll teach your kids, which could be a class of about 50 children. You'll probably see one class about once a week, and you'll be their English experience, and then they'll have another English teacher that's a Chinese person alongside that. This was like, it was very interesting. There's so much cultural stuff that you have to get used to. The place I stayed in China was like, in Shenzhen was a little bit further out, so there was less English. But SDE was really good and very helpful, and Opportunity China is also always there to answer questions, which made it kind of easy. You sort of get, people hold your hand. You're basically like a baby because you can't do anything yourself, but someone will help you. You get your bank account set up. They'll help you find an apartment, like all of these sort of concerns that you might be having. It sort of all just happens, and not necessarily in the way you might expect. I'll talk through the pictures quickly. So these are the kids that I taught. I actually had a very relaxed schedule. We had a brand new school, so I didn't teach that many children, which was quite nice. I had a lot of free time. These are my lovely co-teachers, Emma and Debbie. So they were the Chinese English teachers, and we were a team together, and we got on very well. And this is some friends. This is when we had to go and register with the police. and we didn't know where to go. So the policeman just ended up driving us there, and it's still like a happy memory. Shenzhen itself is massive, really beautiful. It's won sort of prizes for like urban planning. So it's a very interesting city, although it's not sort of grown naturally like places like London. So there's not really a center. It's more like multiple centers. A lot of like design inspiration there and that kind of thing. So I enjoyed living there. It was a really nice sort of introduction to China. You have Hong Kong very close to you as well, which was nice. If you wanted like a little bit of home, you could always cross the border, although that's probably a little bit more difficult now. Well, definitely a little bit more difficult now from what I've heard from friends still living in Shenzhen. So that was my first experience, and I stayed there a year, teaching grade 1 students, and then after that I decided to try a different city in China. So I ended up moving to Shanghai. Okay, here we go. And that's where I am now, and I moved to a kindergarten. So I've been working for Victoria Kindergarten for the past 2 years, and I'm just starting my 3rd year now. So I actually teach younger children now. And I teach them the IB curriculum, which you might be familiar with, and also an American English language program called Teachers College Reading and Writing Program, which I'd never heard of before I started work at Victoria, so I don't expect you to either. Here I'm more of a homeroom teacher, so I have my class and I'm with them all year round. And these are some of the things that you do when you're in China: getting dressed up a lot, saying yes to things that sound crazy, which is a lot of fun. And the kids are amazing, which is great. I love this job a lot. This is me teaching very capable children. Let me think. What else I want to say? You can ask, I think you can ask me more questions about the actual teaching, but I'll keep moving for now. Shanghai life, China life. It's not, it doesn't lack Western things. Shenzhen was the same. I just don't have very many pictures of Shenzhen because I lost my phone. So most of my social pictures are Shanghai. There are a lot of foreigners. It will be nice if you go with Opportunity China, then you'll know people before you move out probably, and there'll be a lot of people that you can be in touch with, so you don't need to worry about that. There's a lot of home in China as well, but also a lot of new experiences. The cities are huge. There are lots of fun things to go out and do, cultural experiences, museums. There's a lot of art as well, especially design in Shenzhen is very cool at the moment, and it's been growing as well, and so I've been told by friends. This is where you could potentially be living. I mean, this is more Shanghai style, I suppose, because it's a little older. Shenzhen will be a little bit more new. But it's very nice. A lovely picture of the Bund here. Let me see. Within China, I've actually managed to travel a lot. I don't know what your motivations are for coming out to China, but for me, it was definitely wanting to see more of Asia. Having traveled to Japan and Vietnam previously, I was very keen to not necessarily see more of China, although my intrigue has grown as I've been living here for longer, but to see more places in Asia. In China, I've traveled to, I'll do that one later. It's too later. Hainan, I spent my Christmas in Hainan with some girlfriends. I've been to Yunnan, I've had my family come out and walked Tiger Leaping Gorge, which was beautiful. Guilin, which is very famous for its rice paddies and these very sort of interesting karst peaks. It's a little bit like Ha Long Bay without the water. The landscape is very, very beautiful. This is me and my friend, we managed to hitch a ride with some dancers and then got to see them dance in the hotel. Just fun experiences. This is a typical Guilin breakfast, which was delicious. Asia, well, just in the past year, I've been to Myanmar. I spent some time in Korea. I've been to Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur here, Bali. randomly a trip to New York because it was the cheapest place to go to during Golden Week, which is a little strange, but Asia gets very booked up during weeks like this, and there are like places that you can travel to as a foreigner, which is harder for Chinese people. So I ended up flying for 21 hours for 3 days in New York to visit a friend, but it was worth it 100%. Apartments. Oh wait, I'll go back to favorite things about China, and I'll start with food. Let me see. So the food here, Chinese food is not like Chinese food that you're used to back home, because you've got all of the different provinces have essentially their own cuisine. And I think probably my favorite is Yunnan cuisine, which you see here. It's very fresh. There's lots of like minty flavors, fresh chilies, fresh salads. This one is one of my favorite dishes. It's fried goat's cheese. And there is a restaurant here in Shanghai that does great Yunnan food. Although the best Yunnanese food I've had is from Yunnan. Szechuan hot pot, which is yummy. It takes some getting used to. Like, I hope you like spicy food if you're coming out, or you should if you have Szechuan food anyway. Hunan spicy ribs, and this one is like typically Shanghainese. It's called hongsharou, which is basically just pork cooked in sugar for a long time, sugar and soy sauce. Those are probably my favorite things to eat here, Chinese wise. Although it really, like, if you're craving a pizza, you can always find that in China as well. So you don't need to worry about that. I was a little worried about that before I came out, to be honest, like how different it would be. Oh yeah, drunk early morning food in China is the best. You can always get fried noodles somewhere. I had to add my this picture of my friend, although she's probably not going to thank me for that. And Korean food as well. There's like Korean towns in lots of places. There we go. Our favorite things about living in China in general, apart from the food, life here, like I have an amazing work-life balance here. I find that I can go to work and leave work and still have a very nice social life. I have time to do other things with my time. I write for an arts platform. I managed to like go and do a lot more exercise than I did back at home. I'm also able to save more money than I was back at home as well and send that home, which is something that I'm thankful for. We've been like looked after very well during COVID as well, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. Let me see how I'm doing for time. Okay, I'm doing okay. Let me see what's next. Okay, so apartment hunting. This is actually my flat now. I've just moved. Apartment hunting was when I first came out, something that I was really worried about, but with Opportunity China, and the placement that I had, you just get helped with everything. So they'll give you options, and they'll take you around to different places. They'll negotiate with landlords for you about what kind of price. They'll make sure that you end up living somewhere that's close to your school, which is helpful as well if you get placed at a specific school. So a lot of the concerns that I had initially about like coming out were actually sort of things that just got solved without any sort of effort really on my part, other than making choices, which was really nice. I think without having Opportunity China's help and SDE's help, these things would be a lot more difficult, especially when you first come out. I think if you've been here a little bit longer and you can speak some Chinese and know how to navigate, you know, all of the apps and that kind of thing, it becomes more easy. But when you first come out, it's really nice to have that kind of support. So I was very thankful for that. And now I've just moved because COVID has made prices drop quite a lot. So I'm now living somewhere very nice, which I'm happy about. So I wanted to share my pictures with you guys. This is where I live now. Yeah. Okay, so COVID, China and COVID. I just touched on it briefly. So my experience was that I was actually out of the country and ended up getting back into the country about 6 hours before they officially closed their border. So I was very lucky. But I did go through a similar process to what is happening to people now. So what happens when you arrive is that you'll get tested and you'll be taken to somewhere to quarantine. That will probably be a hotel. somewhere, and they'll like monitor you and look after you in that hotel, depending on your company and that kind of situation. Like I don't know how it will work with costs for you guys, but for us, like costs were covered by a company to those that did have to quarantine, or even by the government partially. Like there were no costs incurred by teachers who would return and did have to hotel quarantine. I was lucky enough to quarantine in my home. So they just put a sensor on my door, and I had people like in the community that would look after me, that would bring my shopping and that kind of thing up for me. But this is 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks, your healthy code becomes green, and you're allowed to go out and enjoy life. And to be honest, because everything's so well monitored here, day-to-day life is not really very different to how it was before. I mean, we wear masks on the subway, that's compulsory. And when we like go and drop the children off, so now the parents are not allowed into our school, but the children come in and they don't wear masks, and we've stopped wearing masks as well. We were wearing masks at the beginning, but it's not very easy to teach in a mask, especially if you're doing, you know, like phonics and that kind of thing. So we actually remove our masks when we go upstairs. And as regards going out, everything is open. Some places check your code. Everyone will have one of these codes on their phone, and anyone can ask you at any time before welcoming you into their establishment. And each city has its own specific code, but the whole of China does work with this coding system at the moment. So if I was to go to Shenzhen, I'd have to probably download the Shenzhen code, and then somehow the codes talk to each other. This might be too much detail, I'm not sure. It's quite, it's like, it sounds complicated, but it's actually very well managed. And I feel extremely safe here. Like I think that I'm very glad I managed to get back into the country actually just in time, and I feel very grateful for that. Regards work, throughout COVID, I was paid, as were like most of my friends. It's been harder for kindergartens because the government was not allowing kindergartens to ask fees because it's not compulsory education yet. But all government-run public schools and other international schools have, you know, managed to teach online and have still managed to look after their teachers very well, regards salary and that kind of thing. So that's been absolutely great. So I have no complaints from that perspective at all. I'm very happy to be here. I think I'm gonna, this picture is so random. This is me getting very bored in my flat and trying to make some artwork. I think I will sort of open it up to questions now, if that's okay. Will, is that all right? Can you unmute everyone? Do you want to be in charge of that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Emily. That was really
okay.
useful and really good to hear. For those of you that want to ask any questions, you can either write them down, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, and just ask a question outright, or if you just click the raise hand button, that'll probably work better actually. If you click the raise hand button, if you have a question, then Emily can answer that for you.
Ew.
Sorry, did you guys catch all of that? Hello. Sorry, did you guys catch that, or did I disappear for a minute?
In bits.
Okay, sorry about that. So those of you who have any questions, you can either type them in the box for Emily to answer, or if you click the raise hand button on the chat, what I can do for you is just unmute you and you can ask your question face to face as well. Well, I guess I kind of have a bit of a question, which is, oh, so the raise hand button is just, if you click the chat, that's a good question, Johnny. If you click the chat button at the bottom, where it has, where all the participants are, there should be a little option that says to raise hand. If you just click on where the participants button is, should this be an option to raise hand. Well, what I was going to ask there, Emily, was, so when you came back, you say you were able to self-isolate at home for 2 weeks. Is that right? Sorry, did you catch that again, or was that jutting out? Hello?
Yeah, I did get you. Yes.
Sorry, yeah, sorry. I think the weather's playing with connection at the moment. I think, so when you came back to Shanghai, Emily, you were able to isolate at home. So how were you able to get things like food, and how did sort of like grocery shoppings and things like that work during your period of self-isolation?
Well, I can talk. The whole process was arrive at the airport. We got put in a designated bus to take us to the area that we lived in. We stayed in isolation where we got COVID tested. As soon as our COVID test came back as negative, and everyone else who was like in our area, like isolation area with us, was also negative, we got put in special transportation buses and got taken to our communities. Most people here live in communities. So there are people that look after your community, and like each community had like a designated COVID person or couple of COVID people. So I got put into a WeChat group with 2 nurses, a policeman, and someone that spoke English. And they looked after me for 2 weeks. They gave me all of the things I needed for quarantining. So they would bring up water to me if I wanted them to bring up water. I was allowed to order things online as well. So you can use, it's called Erlama. I can't think of, I don't know, Uber Eats, like something like that, but like way better. It just has everything. So you can order groceries, even take out food. I mean, I didn't order too much because every time it got ordered, I needed to like send a message that my sensor was going to go off on my door, and I didn't want to trouble people too much. But it was very easy. You could just sort of like, the delivery guy would come and knock on your door, and you sort of shouted at him that he had to leave before you could open the door, and then you could open the door and take things in. So it was easy, really. They even gave me sort of like a thermometer, and I had to submit my temperature twice a day just to make sure that I was okay. And I got like daily check-ins, which was really nice. And then when my 2 weeks was up, they came in and they took the sensor off my door, and they gave me a special release form, which I had to hand into my work just to like make sure that I'd done these 2 weeks of quarantine, and that it was okay, and I hadn't broken any rules, because unfortunately there were people, especially at the beginning, that were leaving their homes when they really shouldn't have been doing, which is why a lot of it got moved to hotels, I think, in Shanghai. I don't think anyone in Shanghai is allowed to isolate at home anymore, unfortunately. I'm not sure how the situation is elsewhere. Oh, I can see that there are like lots of questions. What do I plan to do in the future? I'll just read it. Also, when you lived in Shenzhen, did you have a good standard of living on your salary? Okay, so what I plan to do in the future, does anyone know what they want to do in the future right now? No, I want to stay here for longer is my plan. I have such a good life here. I can't see myself really wanting to come back anytime soon, to be honest. I think like there are like long term living in China, I think there would be some like issues with that. But I don't know. At the moment, I don't see myself returning anytime soon. I really like life here. When I lived in Shenzhen, I had a good standard of living. I mean, you'll be earning more than the standard Chinese person for sure on your salary. I was able to go out and enjoy myself. I spent a lot of time going out and enjoying myself. Your accommodation will be cheap. Like utilities are also, it's very cheap. Like you can go out and have food for not much money. There are also there are opportunities to spend more money as well if you want to. I mean, foreign places cost a little bit more. Like you can spend as little or as much as you want. I think that's similar to, you know, a lot of places. There are options, but in general, the cost of living is very, very low. Let me see. Hi, Emily. I'll go to the next question. Hi, Emily. I also have signed with SDE in Beijing for an international school. How have you found? How have you found working for them? How involved were you with the direction of the classes? Well, I don't know what your school will be like, obviously, and I was in Shenzhen and I'm now in Shanghai. I have a few friends who have worked in Beijing, and my previous friend who introduced me to Opportunity China was also in Beijing, and she had a great time there. When it came to the direction of my classes in Shenzhen, I was in full control of them. But you do receive support, especially with 50 kids, and if you're teaching like lower levels, their understanding of English might not be very high. But it really depends on your school. So you'd have to, you know, like see, I don't know whether you'll have a co-teacher or that kind of thing, but my experience is that you kind of come in and you're an expert and you're left to do it how you choose to manage your class. And the support that you receive, the support that I received was mainly in the way of training, was more from people from SDE than rather at my school, but that could be different for you if you're working for a specific international school. I'm not sure about that. Let me see. Joseph, I'm applying to UCL for next year. Do you have any advice for using the teaching experience on an application? Interesting. Well, I don't know what you want to go and study at UCL. I studied museums and galleries and education at the IOE, and I obviously did that before coming out to China. But I thought like my reason for coming to China initially was to get some like real life teaching experience and then going into museum education. But I mean, there are so many things that you learn from living here. I mean, you become so much more open-minded. I thought I was an open-minded person before coming to China. No, not really. You learn about a different culture. You learn about speaking to different people, being more empathetic and understanding. I've learned so much here. The people here, how to deal with people, communication skills, especially in a completely different work culture that you have to figure out, like interpersonal skills. There's so much that I've learned from China. I feel like I've grown an awful lot whilst here, and I'm very thankful for that experience. I don't know whether that helps you at all. I think a lot of it would be interpersonal skills and that kind of thing. Let me see. Scrolling down. Okay, can't find the raise your hand. I don't know where the raise your hand button is either, to be honest. I'm going to be working in a kindergarten, and there's been discussion on public and private centers, but not too much specifically on kindergartens. What do you notice as significant differences teaching a kindergarten? Also, would you recommend searching for an apartment or just using apartments that are included with the school you're working for, if that makes sense? That makes sense. The first thing, teaching in kindergartens is, you'll probably be a homeroom teacher. I don't know what grade, like what level you'll teach. I've taught K1 and I'm now teaching K2. K1 is a lot more life skills. and K2 is a little bit more academic for me. So I actually teach them reading and writing, and while in K1 you expect them to know like their ABCs and phonics, but like reading and writing less so. So I personally prefer the K2 experience. But I mean, I like working in a kindergarten because I'm a homeroom teacher, which doesn't necessarily always happen if you like end up teaching at a primary school or at a middle school, whatever. I like the like real connection that I have with my group of children. So I would say for me personally, that's the biggest difference, other than more sort of like very specific company related stuff, which I won't go into too much. Apartment wise, when I went to Shenzhen, I stayed in an apartment that was not a school apartment. It was an apartment close to school, and I was with other foreign teachers in this apartment complex that worked at different schools. And like the apartment was not like I could have ended up being somewhere nicer, I think, but it was like very, very cheap, and it was really nice to have that like sense of community initially, and to do a lot of the things that you have to do when you first move to China, to do with like visas and like health checks and just navigating, I don't know, menus and that kind of thing, just to do that together. So I enjoyed that. Looking for your own apartment is also like, it's not difficult. I think if that's an option for you, and if your school is maybe not central and you think it would be nice to live central, then I'm sure you would be able to get help with that as well. Your school will probably be able to help you out. It depends how comfortable you feel looking by yourself. I would also say, like, if you're going to come with a suitcase and nothing else, there's nothing wrong with getting yourself an Airbnb for a month and just deciding. If you feel comfortable with that. I think, like, for me now, I would feel comfortable doing that and figuring it out as I go along. But when I initially came to China, I found it very comforting to know that someone was just going to sort me out. So I think that depends on your personal experience and how you feel about it. I hope that's answered your question. How big and how did you deal with the culture shock, change in scenery and lifestyle? It's so long ago now. I think you just have to, like, there are weird things and there are things that will probably annoy you. There are still China days that I have now, but be open-minded. Just enjoy it, to be honest. Like, that's even the things that are, you know, maybe not enjoyable at that point in time. Like, you look back and laugh at it. I'll still remember like my first health check, and, you know, like sort of like going through the motions of, you know, going to all of these different stations with a whole load of people and it being really busy. And that's like one of my first China experiences. But you do it together with the other people and you're all going through the same thing and you can talk about it. I feel like if you're signed up to go to China anyway, then you're probably the kind of person that will be able to deal with this kind of thing quite well and just take it in your stride. The language was quite a shock for me. I didn't quite realize how few people would speak English in the part of Shenzhen where I stayed. But public transport is all very well signposted and people are very helpful. The people are lovely. And Chinese people, even if they don't understand you, they will really like try their best to help you out with anything. So that was really nice. Try and learn a little bit of Chinese. Like, it helps if you can like get on, I don't know, what's it called, Duolingo or something beforehand and just learn a few phrases like that. Even if you don't know much, like, it goes a long way. People really appreciate it. Change of scenery, culture shock. Is there anything else? It's also like, it's easy as well. It's not as different as you might expect it to be. I don't know, like, obviously don't know where you live now, but I was going from big city to even bigger city, and like everything is on your doorstep, really. It's just slightly different in slightly different packaging. I definitely enjoy it. I'll go to the next question. Is a homeroom teacher similar to a primary school teacher? That depends on your primary school. Some primary schools you will not be a homeschool teacher. If you work for a oh my God, what's the word? A government school, then you will likely not be a homeroom teacher. You will likely teach multiple grade levels or one grade level, and you will have all of the kids in that grade level on rotation. And that will probably be the case for you if you've signed up to work at a government school, which is fun and very interesting in a different way, because you really get to experience Chinese culture more. And like, I found it fascinating learning about the Chinese education system, and I ended up reading a lot of books related to it as well, things like Little Soldiers and the Hymn of the Tiger Mother. Those would be book recommendations. If you are like interested in learning about differences, then I would definitely refer you to those. But yeah, so it's different, but it's more interesting from a cultural experience, I would say. But from a like professional experience, I now enjoy having my own children. But I wouldn't have wanted to have gone straight to my Shanghai experience, if you see what I mean. I'm really thankful for the public school experience that I had. I think that really helped me understand China more, and it makes it easier for me to like navigate life and understand things now as well. Which part of Shenzhen did you live in? I lived in Bao'an, which was like, it's an up and coming area. I know some friends have stayed there, and a friend of mine sent me a picture of where I used to live, and it's so bougie now. It's like, I didn't recognize it at all. It was so funny. I was like, what? So that's where I was, and I liked it. There are a few places that like catered to Western people. There are more malls now. There were malls being built where I was there. You'll be with I was with a community of people that were working there, because the Shenzhen Education Bureau sort of like places you within a district, and then you'll get to meet most of the teachers that are working in that district. And Shenzhen is huge. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of children, there are a lot of schools. You'll meet people. And regards like being far from a center, I was quite worried about that initially, but the public transport is so good anywhere in China, but Shenzhen was like in particular insane. Like the distances that you could cover in a very short amount of time is crazy. It's very different to the London tube experience. And they have AC as well, which is great. So I don't know, because there's not really a center, there's stuff going on everywhere. I didn't really like experience it as being a problem, even though it was sort of semi far out, or looks that way initially on the map. Okay, how proficient in Chinese would you say you are now? I am studying HSK 4 at the moment, so I've made progress. And Shenzhen really helped, because in Shenzhen I liked to know what was going on in my school. So I like to listen and I tried to pick up quite a lot of Chinese gossip, I suppose. And then I learn as well, because I think, part of understanding a culture is knowing the language. And I think that's definitely very, very true of Chinese. It's a really fun language to learn. It seems very unattainable, but once you get started and start learning about the stories behind the characters, the tones and the sounds, and how one word with another word can make another word, I don't know, maybe that's too complex, but it's actually like, it's a very logical language to learn, and I'm enjoying learning it still. Yeah. Okay, next one. Hi Emily, you moved from Shenzhen to Shanghai. Did your living cost increase? Yes. It did. My living cost increased, but also things like housing allowance and that kind of thing also increased. So I'm still able to save here. I live more central here as well than I did in Shenzhen, and I realized that it's a slightly different experience, but I've been able to save money in both places. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Have I got to the end of them? Are there any more? Oh, how easy is it to send money home? I was really worried about this, but actually it's not that difficult. I would check there are certain banks, certain Chinese banks that are better, like ICBC is better. It's much easier with ICBC, but there are other banks as well that providing you have the right paperwork, which is like you need to submit your tax forms that you've been paying tax, you need like a copy of your work permit. These are all things that your school will be able to provide you with. If you take that to the bank together and tell them how much money you want to send back in RMB, then they'll convert that to whatever currency. I actually sent money back to Holland, so I sent euros home just recently. And the cost is actually, like, if you do it via a bank, the cost is very, very low as well. Like, I was pleasantly surprised by how much that cost me. It wasn't even a percentage, it was like a flat rate. I can't remember exactly how much it was. There are a lot of people that I know that use PayPal, but that's mainly American people. But I think the costs on that are quite high. I think it's worth just going through the hassle of doing it the right way. I also know people that sort of do money exchanges as well, but I don't know, you'd have to trust that, or maybe not be sending too much money home. And then Chinese people are able to send money out of the country very easily. So you can also find yourself a Chinese friend, but you sort of put them at risk by doing that. So I personally wouldn't want to do that to any of my Chinese friends. But yeah, it's actually quite easy to do the right way as long as you provide the right paperwork. Yeah. Any more questions? No, I don't know. You are like all very welcome to like reach out to me on WeChat as well. It might be a little overwhelming and you might still want to be processing your thoughts. I know when I first came out, I was sort of like, whoa, and then like questions came up after hearing information from Will and other people, so.
Thanks a lot. Oh, sorry, one more's just popped in there.
Oh. Did I get a new phone when I went to China? Is that, I don't know why you're asking this question, but yes, you can get new phones in China. And yes, you can get phones that you can put VPNs on and Google Play. And there are people that do these things for you, and it's not difficult. You just need to find the right guy.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. In some, I would slightly hasten to add, just on top of that, in some cities, in Shenzhen in particular, the right guy is very easy to find for anything technical. Whereas sometimes the right guy is a little harder in other ones. But that's totally right. That's totally right. You absolutely can. But it is. We do. I would always personally recommend. When you're going to China, taking a phone with you and having everything pre-installed in it, just in case when you get there, when it comes to things like VPNs. But Emily is absolutely right. You can find the right guy and talk to people who know the right guy as well if you ever find yourself in a sticky situation. And again, you're not going to get in any trouble for anything like that. That's not going to be something where the people in the black suits come and take you away in the van. It's absolutely, everyone does it. At least all,
a lot of Chinese people do.
Yeah, and it's not actually technically illegal as well. So that's the other thing as well that's worth pointing out. Say if you lose a laptop that has a VPN installed, if you need to find someone to install a VPN on it for you, then there are communities and WeChat groups that you're able to do that on, and that's entirely within the law within China. But it's just fiddly and can be a little bit, just cost a little bit. So it's easier generally to have things done before you go.
Yeah. What VPNs are you recommending to people at the moment, Will? Just out of interest.
So we still work with Express, but I know that Express can sometimes have a little bit of an issue. What are you using at the moment, Emily?
I've switched to Astral,
Astral.
and I can send it like I've got a few friends using a free one, which seems to be good, but Express has like not been good here recently.
Has it recently been blocked a little bit in a few situations? Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, also just like in situations where it shouldn't have been blocked, it's just been very slow. So I've switched.
That's good.
The nice thing about Astral is you can use Chinese money as well.
That's useful. Well, that's very useful. I'll chat a little more with you about that, Emily, actually, and we'll send out more information as we get closer to the dates about VPNs. So you guys can download and get your subscriptions just before you go. Like Emily says, sometimes it can fluctuate a little bit in terms of VPN servers that are working well in China, and sometimes VPN servers that aren't working well in China. So we'll keep up to date on that and make sure you guys will get the right recommendations to subscribe to before you leave.
Cool. When is everyone like hoping to go out? Am I allowed to ask questions too?
Yeah, of course. We've got a few people today who are looking to go out in the new year in February, and we've got a few people who are looking to go out in the winter as soon as we're able to go. There are some institutions and organisations that are currently issuing the PU letters, but this is very much on a case-by-case basis. So it's very much being done at the moment on a city-by-city, school-by-school basis. So, for instance, in some areas of China, the government is allowing these PU letters to be issued, so people are now able to actually get their process started because they're going to be able to come, whereas in others they aren't just at the moment. But quite a few are looking at going out in February, and some are looking at going out around the winter time.
Cool. Well, I hope you get here if that's what you like, if that's what everyone intends to do. I couldn't recommend it more. I'm so happy that I ended up here. Like it's a great experience. A lot of people who I know said they'd come out for a year, and a lot of us are still here.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Emily. It's really, really, really good to hear everything you've had to say and hear all about your experience. Personally, it's just really good to see you again as well.
Yeah,
after a few years.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing that with everyone. That's really, really helpful. Thank you so much for sharing your contact details as well.
Please share them again, or share the PPT if you want to, or just my details, whatever. You feel free to get in touch.
Absolutely, that's great. Thank you, Emily.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, have a really lovely evening, Emily. And I hope are you doing anything fun in Shanghai tonight?
Tonight I'm having an early night because I have a fun day tomorrow planned. It's been back to school has been it's been my first week back really with lots of kids, so I'm a little exhausted. Yeah. And you enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and weekend as well. And do get in touch. Nice to see you, Will.
Thanks, Emily.
All right, bye-bye. Bye, guys.
Okie dokie, guys. So we're going to